Lora began to see that the challenge was not meant to diminish her faith but to strengthen it. The man's harsh dismissal was a mirror reflecting her own uncertainties, a call to question, to re-examine, and ultimately to reaffirm her connection with the silent watcher, the unspoken guardian of hidden truths. In the face of adversity, she found a newfound clarity, that belief, like any precious flame, must sometimes face the gusts of doubt to burn ever brighter. And so, with each step along her winding path, Lora embraced the challenge of the encounter. It became a turning point, a moment of self-reflection where she understood that every encounter, whether laced with kindness or bitter skepticism, was a necessary thread in the tapestry of her journey. The trials of that day urged her to listen more deeply to the quiet wisdom around her, to see that even the harshest voices could lead her to a deeper, more resilient truth. Lora paused at the edge of the alley, the man's harsh words still echoing in her ears. But amidst the lingering doubts, a soft, persistent murmur stirred inside her, a gentle inner voice that had accompanied her throughout her journey. It spoke not in loud declarations but in quiet, steady tones, urging her to trust the light within. Closing her eyes for a brief moment, Lora inhaled deeply. In that silence, the inner voice reminded her of all the tender moments she'd witnessed, the laughter of children chasing butterflies, the soft smiles shared between strangers, and the unspoken comfort of the unseen watcher high above. It reassured her that every encounter, even the challenging ones, was a necessary step toward a deeper truth. With renewed resolve, Lora opened her eyes, the inner voice now a guiding compass in her heart. It urged her to continue her path, to seek out the gentle wisdom in everyday life, and to let her own inner light dispel the shadows cast by doubt. Each step forward became a silent affirmation of her belief that truth, however quietly it might whisper, was worth listening to. Embracing the challenge of the day, Lora let the inner voice guide her onward, through winding paths and quiet alleys, through moments of beauty and pain alike. And with every step she grew a little more certain that her journey was not just about uncovering secrets, but about nurturing the resilient light that shone within her, ready to illuminate even the darkest corners of the world. In the darkest corners of her journey, when the weight of uncertainty and pain seemed unbearable, Lora began to wonder if the tiny, ever-watching eye might reveal a path, a faint, shimmering trail through the obscurity of her inner world. Even as shadows crept into the recesses of her heart, that silent guardian offered a gentle glimmer, like a strand of starlight in a midnight sky. In moments when despair threatened to silence her inner voice, the eye's quiet vigilance stirred a subtle radiance, guiding her steps along a path in the darkness. It was as if the unseen observer, with its timeless wisdom, sought to remind her that every hidden sorrow held the seed of renewal. Each step along that luminous thread was both a challenge and a promise, a call to trust in the transformative power of truth and the hope that comes from embracing even the most painful revelations. Though Lora had yet to fully understand the eye's mysterious intent, its silent message resonated deeply within her. Even in the most profound darkness, there exists a path that, when walked with courage and an open heart, leads to healing, understanding, and ultimately a brighter dawn. Lora continued on her winding path, leaving behind the bench and the gentle murmur of the field. As the afternoon light softened into a warm, golden glow, every step seemed to echo with the whispers of untold stories and ancient secrets. The memories of the day's encounters, the shared confidences, the unspoken bonds, mingled with the rustle of autumn leaves and the quiet laughter of children chasing butterflies. Ahead, nestled beneath a large, sprawling oak, she encountered an elderly storyteller. Draped in a shawl that had seen many seasons, the storyteller sat by a small fire that danced with flickering shadows. Her eyes, deep and filled with quiet wisdom, seemed to hold the village's history within them. With a gentle smile, she began to recount legends of old, tales of guardians and hidden truths that had shaped the lives of those in the village for generations. Lora listened intently as the storyteller spoke of a silent watcher, a benevolent presence that had guided lost souls and kindled hope in the darkest hours. When truths are shared, they take flight on a shared journey, like the butterflies in the field, the storyteller murmured, her voice soft and steady. And knowledge, once unburdened, can light the path for others. Her words stirred something deep within Lora. She reflected on the secret the young mother had revealed about her son, that unseen guardian who had quietly woven itself into the fabric of his life. Though Lora still carried the weight of what she had seen, the ever-watchful silent eye, it now felt less like a burden and more like a spark of potential, a call to connect and to heal. As twilight began to descend, Lora rose from her thoughtful reverie. The path ahead was illuminated not just by the soft glow of the setting sun, but by the promise of new encounters and shared stories. Every person she met, every whispered tale, was a thread in the vast tapestry of life. A tapestry that wove together the seen and the unseen, the known and the mysterious. With a renewed sense of purpose, Lora stepped forward into the gathering dusk, her heart both heavy with secret knowledge and light with the hope of connection. The unseen watcher above continued its silent vigil, its presence now a quiet reminder that while the weight of knowing is profound, it also carries the power to unite hearts and illuminate the darkest corners. And as Lora ventured deeper into the village, she embraced the truth that every encounter was an opportunity, a chance for a new bond to form, for another story to be told, and for light to break through even the longest shadows. Lora continued her journey beneath the slowly darkening sky, the comforting echoes of the storyteller's words still resonating in her heart. Yet as twilight deepened, not every encounter brought solace. In a narrow, shadowed alley lined with crumbling stone walls, she met a man whose presence was as harsh as the chill in the air. He was rugged, his eyes hardened by years of disappointment, and his voice cut through the quiet like a sharp wind. "You speak of watchers and hidden truths," he said, his tone dismissive and bitter. "But those are nothing more than illusions, stories to keep you from facing the brutal reality of life." His words stung, and for a moment, Lora felt the fragile pillars of her belief tremble. The man's cynicism was a stark contrast to the gentle magic she had sensed earlier, and it challenged her deeply. His scornful laughter echoed in the dim light as he continued, "Faith in the unseen is a crutch for the weak. Out here you must rely on your own strength, not on fantasies or whispered legends." Lora's heart pounded in her chest as she searched his eyes, seeking some hint of the truth behind his harsh exterior. Was his disbelief born of pain, or was it simply the armor of someone who had long given up hope? In that moment of confrontation, doubt crept into her mind. The quiet, benevolent observer she had trusted, its silent guidance, its promise of hidden care, now seemed vulnerable to the weight of harsh reality. Yet as she stood there in the gathering gloom, Lora remembered the soft flutter of butterflies in the field and the gentle trust in the eyes of the young mother and her child. She recalled that every truth, no matter how painful, carried with it the potential to enlighten. Perhaps this man's harsh words were not a negation of the unseen, but a test, a necessary trial that would force her to examine her beliefs with greater care. Taking a steadying breath, Lora met his gaze. "Maybe you're right," she replied softly, "and perhaps I must learn to rely on myself. But even in the darkest moments, I believe that the stories we share, of hope, protection, and unseen guardians, can light our way. They remind us that even if not every encounter is kind, every truth has its own place, its own purpose." The man's expression wavered, as if her words touched something long buried beneath his cynicism. Without another word, he turned away, leaving Lora to stand alone in the twilight. In that quiet aftermath, the encounter left a bittersweet mark on her soul, a reminder that faith is not an unchallenged light but a flame that must sometimes be kindled anew amid the shadows of doubt. Lora resumed her path, the weight of his words mingling with the hopeful echoes of her own heart. With every step she carried the challenge of the encounter, allowing it to refine her belief rather than shatter it. For in the tapestry of her journey, every thread, be it harsh or gentle, wove together to create a more resilient, luminous truth. The challenge of the encounter struck Lora like a sudden chill on an otherwise warm day. In that narrow alley where the fading light cast long, uncertain shadows, the man's bitter words had cut deeper than any physical blow. His cynicism, a relentless barrage of doubts about unseen guardians and whispered truths, had forced her to confront the very foundations of her belief. For a long moment, Lora stood in silence, the echoes of his scorn reverberating in her mind. She felt the weight of his doubt, a heavy reminder that not every soul in this world was ready or willing to share in the mysteries that had come to define her journey. Yet within that challenge there was an unexpected spark, a call to refine her understanding, to prove to herself that the light she carried could withstand even the harshest of shadows. As she resumed her walk, every step seemed to pulse with the tension of that encounter. The familiar path now appeared fraught with unseen trials, each one a test of her inner resolve. The vibrant laughter of children chasing butterflies and the gentle murmur of village life, which once filled her with hope, now mingled with a quiet determination to seek truth even when it was questioned. Lora began to see that the challenge was not meant to diminish her faith but to strengthen it. The man's harsh dismissal was a mirror reflecting her own uncertainties, a call to question, to re-examine, and ultimately to reaffirm her connection with the silent watcher, the unspoken guardian of hidden truths. In the face of adversity she found a newfound clarity, that belief, like any precious flame, must sometimes face the gusts of doubt to burn ever brighter. And so, with each step along her winding path, Lora embraced the challenge of the encounter. It became a turning point, a moment of self-reflection where she understood that every encounter, whether laced with kindness or bitter skepticism, was a necessary thread in the tapestry of her journey. The trials of that day urged her to listen to her inner voice.
I know you have yet to feel the tender weight of that watchful gaze. But when it finds you, do not fear. It is not a force of judgment, but a gentle call to awaken your inner light. Let its presence remind you that every truth, once shared, becomes a guide, lifting the shadows and connecting us all in a journey of hope. Embrace it, and you will discover that even the most minor witness can reveal the vast beauty of our shared destiny.